So, hello, good day everyone, and we are back again by discussing on CMO number 22 to 2010. And now we will proceed to number 3, which is the miscellaneous provisions, which is the topic 3, and number 4, or topic 4, which is the harbor regulations related to customs. So, now let's proceed. So, miscellaneous provisions in Section 20, the Certificate of Quarantined Cargo. When cargo manifested for any port in the Philippines is retained on board the importing vessel by order of the quarantine officer or any other officer authorized to issue such order, the customs inspector on board, after verifying said cargo, shall make a certificate of constructive lading as to the bill of lading. So in section 21, the use of boarding watercraft. So the customs senior boarding officer shall not permit anyone to go with the customs boarding watercraft upon departure from the pier except customs inspectors and customs guards duly assigned to vessels to the boarded. So customs inspectors and customs guards assigned by the chief base service section or its equivalent office to substitute for absent personnel, and those especially granted in writing by the chief, peers, and inspection division or its equivalent office may be given the privilege to use the boarding watercraft. So we have here the section 22, which is the baggage declaration entry. So the baggage declaration, it is properly accomplished by incoming passengers, um, shall be presented to the customs inspector on board or to the customs examiner or appraiser upon boarding of the vessel. It is required that an itemized enumeration thereon of the articles obtained abroad, showing quantity and the corresponding invoice price, should be made in the baggage declarations. So articles, wares, goods, merchandise, and any other cargo acquired abroad not so declared shall be liable to seizure and subject to the penalties of the customs law. So that is the policy of the baggage declaration entry. So in section 23, the vessel clearing are the foreign ports applying for bunker. So the customs inspector on board of a vessel clearing for foreign ports and applying for bunkers shall require the master thereof to transmit together his application, the usual affidavit, which is containing the following. So first is the name and nationality of the vessel. Second is the amount of fuel available on board for its propulsion at time of entry. And number 3 is the vessel's daily consumption of oil at sea. Number 4, the vessel's daily consumption of oil in port. 5, the port or ports of call during the voyage and during a vessel's stay at each port, and the amount of bunkers applied for. So, section 24, we have the unloading of cargo by distressed vessel. So, a distressed vessel in port desiring to unload cargo for the duration of the vessel's sojourn thereat may be issued a permit to discharge her cargo upon written request of the master or agent, which is approved by the collector of customs under such terms and conditions he may deem proper. If the cargo's discharge will be cleared or entered in the port where they discharge, the unloading of this class of cargo shall be subject to the same rules and regulations prescribed for cargoes destined or the port. Unless authorized by a shipside discharge permit, such cargoes shall be discharged into the pier, and if discharged into lighters, such lighters must be of the closed type and must be secured, locked, and sealed with custom seal and must remain under guard until final disposition thereof is made. So next is the ship's mail. So ship's mail shall be examined as they are being taken from the ship, and all mails addressed to persons other than the agents of the vessel shall be delivered to the mail clerk. Any dutiable articles or merchandise other than mail found in the mailbags shall be subject to duties and taxes or seizure. So section 26, we have laborers and ship's laundry. So all stevedores, laborers, and other persons of similar status shall be thoroughly searched by or under the immediate supervision of the customs inspector on board upon their leaving the vessel. And such person found with pilfered articles or those not authorized for discharge in his person shall be arrested. So for bundles of clothing, ship's linen or laundry or etc., which are to be taken ashore for laundering, a list shall be prepared by the inspector, who shall check them against such list upon the return on board, so that the corresponding duties and taxes may be assessed and collected on those unaccounted for before the vessel sails. So section 25, seizures. Seizures. So the customs inspector or the customs guard making seizure shall deliver to the owner or the claimant, and if unclaimed, to the master of the vessel, a receipt describing the article seized. He shall forward immediately the article seized together with the seizure report and transfer note to the Chief Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office. So section 28, we have arrest. Upon searching a vessel or any person on boat thereof, the customs inspector or the customs guard on board is authorized and required to search, arrest, and even detain conformably with law any person found committing act or acts contrary to the law. When a person is apprehended under such circumstances, the customs inspector on board shall conduct an informal investigation, after determination whereof the person arrested together with the evidence shall be turned over to the Enforcement and Security Service or the ESS for appropriate action. So a report in detail showing the name of the person arrested, the reason for the arrest, and the action taken shall be submitted without delay to the Chief Pierce and Inspection Division or its equivalent office. So those are the things discussed by the what are the things to do by the arrest, or who are the person na rights mo arrest. So section 29, the small boats alongside vessels. So small boats authorized by the PPA to engage in ferry services may be permitted to come alongside the vessel. A customs guard shall be stationed at all times while a small boat, launch, or any water draft is alongside, and it shall be thoroughly searched before being permitted to depart. So section 30, the customs guards for vessels lying alongside. So a customs guard shall be detailed by the customs inspector on board of a vessel when another vessel is lying alongside, whose duty shall be to see that no contraband articles or merchandise is passed from one vessel to the other. These duties shall be arranged in rotation so that the vessel will be under continuous surveillance until its departure. So it is also a one duty of the customs guards to be guarded alongside the vessel. So next is the section 31, which is having anchor and sail. So upon receipt of a notice of clearance, the customs inspector on board shall allow the vessel to heave anchor and sail. But if for no any reason the ship does not leave and remains in port for more than 48 hours or 2 days after the time of the departure indicated in the clearance, the master or agent of time for departure, without which the original clearance shall be of no force or effect. So, repair of vessel equipment. Upon the filing of a bond or underguard in the Section 105 of the Tariff and Customs Code of the Philippines as amended, guaranteeing the re-exportation and approved by the Collector of Customs, the landing of sales, casks, chronometers, and other portions of the vessel's equipment for the purpose of having them repaired shall be permitted. The customs inspector shall describe the articles or equipment so released in a sufficient detail to enable easy and ready identification upon their return. So, Section 33, the conversion of vessel status. So, A, from foreign to coastwise. So, vessels of foreign status may be converted to a coastwise status after the following requirements are fully complied with and submitted to the Collector of Customs through the Customs Clearance Officer as prerequisite to the issuance of clearance. So, first is the certification from the concerned office of the Bureau that import entry had been filed and duties and taxes had been paid and or secured to be paid. Second is the certification of conversion issued by the Maritime Industry Authority. Number 3 is the certification from the Chief, Peers and Inspection Division and Chief, Base Service Section or their equivalent offices, with the Enforcement and Security Services or the ESS, as member of the searching team, that the vessel has been fully searched for contraband cargoes indicating therein the results of the searching mission. Number 4 is the certification from the shipping agency attested by the customs inspector on board that shall foreign cargoes are fully discharged from vessel. Number 5, inventory list of ship's stores and salons and crew declaration list shall be duly accomplished, signed by the master of the vessel and attested by the customs inspector on board. Such vessels shall be subject to continuous underguarding until final clearance is issued by the Office of the Deputy Collector for Operations. So number 33, still the conversion of vessel status. So let's have letter B, from coastwise to foreign. Vessels of coastwise status may be converted to a foreign status subject to the following requirements. So first, it's the certification of conversion issued by the Maritime Industry Authority. Second is the duly processed export declarations or the permits. So number 34, the letters to collector. The customs senior boarding officer shall collect all letters in the vessel's possession addressed to the collector of customs and transmit them without delay to the customs house, to the refuse and garbage. So no refuse, garbage, and the like shall be thrown or jettisoned inside any harbor, more especially while the ship is alongside berths. All damaged and rotten cargo shall be disposed upon arrangement and permission of the Collector of Customs, and at the area designated by said official or duly authorized representative after consultation with the Philippine Coast Guard and the Department of Environment and the Natural Resources or the DNR. So next is the firearms, care and use. So care should be exercised in the use of firearms, of course. So the unnecessary display of firearms is prohibited. An employee should remember that the law will hold him personally responsible for the results of the use of firearms by him. A weapon should not be drawn or used except in self-defense or to prevent the commission of a felony. While it is not intended that an officer or employee should jeopardize his own life or the life of an associate when danger threatens, it is intended that extreme caution and cool liberation control his actions. So officers and employees shall not be permitted to carry firearms while on duty until they have been thoroughly instructed in the proper care and use of such weapons. So all firearms will be inspected by the Chief, Peers and Inspection Division or its equivalent office periodically to see that they are kept in condition for proper use. All sidearms must be holstered and properly carried on official duty. So next is the instructions relative to discharging, withdrawal, and loading of empty container. So discharging of empty containers, the shipping agent prior to the discharge of empty containers shall furnish the Customs Container Control Division a copy of the approved sequence of discharge and a separate listing of empty containers to be discharged from the carrying vessel for monitoring and aging purposes. So, second is the withdrawal of empty containers. So, the shipping agent concerned shall present a letter request to the Chief Customs Container Control Division for withdrawal of empty container from the pier once approved. The Deputy Collector for Operations, the Chief Enforcement Security Service or the ESS, and the Chief Piers and Inspection Division shall be furnished copies of the request and the permit to withdraw issued. So next, still with the instructions relative to discharging, withdrawal, and loading of empty container. Number 3, it is the loading of empty containers. So prior to the loading of empty containers on board carrying vessel, the shipping agent concerned shall apply for a special permit to load or the SPL in a letter application made for that purpose at the Customs Container Division or its equivalent office. So it shall be the responsibility of the Customs Container Control Division to physically inspect every empty container brought into unloaded onto the port and to verify if indeed the same is empty as represented by the concerned parties. So the empty containers shall be inspected upon their arrival into or after their unloading onto the port, and not when these empty containers are being loaded into the carrying vessel. So it must be checked first before to load into the vessel. So next is the section 38, the instructions relative to the withdrawal of shut out containerized export. So first is the withdrawal of shut out containerized export cargoes. So all applications for the withdrawal of shut out containerized export cargoes shall be directly filed with the Chief or the CCD. Spot checking of the contents of the subject container shall no longer be required, but instead the following precautionary measures shall be undertaken. So, A. The application to withdraw shut-out containers. Containerized export cargo shall be accompanied at all times by the following. So, first is the certification of the shipping agent concerned attesting to such fact. Second is an equipment interchange receipt or the EIR. And third, a copy of export declaration or permit or the inquiry. So, letter B, the spot checking shall be confined only to determine whether the original shipping agent seal affixed after the stuffing operations is intact. C. In case the container's export cargoes are deliveries from a CBW, which fact shall be indicated in the application. The same shall not be withdrawn unless accompanied by a customs guard who shall guard the same until the shipment is received by the assigned customs warehouseman or customs storekeeper at the CBW. For this purpose, the Chief Customs Container Control Division shall coordinate with the Chief Bonded Warehouse Operating Division concerned for the underguarding requirements. So, Section 39, the shifting of cargoes. So, shipping agent shall submit a written request for shifting of cargoes to the Office of the Chief Piers and Inspection Division, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 40, devanning, stripping, and stuffing. So, consignee shall submit a written request for devanning, stripping, and stuffing to the Office of the Chief Piers and Inspection Division, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. Section 41, the direct-to-truck transfer. For direct transfer of container or cargo from vessel to truck, consignee or the customs broker shall submit a written request to the Office of the Chief Piers and Inspection Division, which in turn shall recommend its approval to the Deputy Collector for Operations. So Section 42, the overtime permit. All requests for overtime work by peers and inspection division personnel other than those regular activities mentioned in this manual shall be recommended by the Chief, Peers and Inspection Division and approved by the Deputy or Collector for Operations. Section 43, the discharging of vessels lodge. So all requests for discharging of vessels lodge shall be recommended by the Chief, Peers and Inspection Division and approved by the Deputy Collector for Operations. So, Section 44, the bunkering permit. All requests for vessel bunkering or refueling shall be recommended for approval by the Chief, Peers and Inspection Division to the Chief Port Operations Service or the AOCG. So, Section 45 is the leisure or racing yacht. So, the boarding formalities shall, as far as practicable, apply to leisure crafts, yachts, foreign fishing vessels, and local fishing vessels from abroad. The provision shall include all vessels arriving in the country that are participants of regattas or similar competitions. During boarding formalities, the master or the owner of the yacht or other similar vessel shall manifest or state its intention or purpose of its journey in the Philippines. He must indicate if its voyage is for pleasure or indicate intended period of stay in the Philippines, conversion from foreign to coastwise, payment of duties and taxes, or conduct of business in the Philippines. Still, those yachts has a taxes to be paid, even if it's and it has, it must have something specific period of stay. So, kana para dili kay sila madak-an sa ilang mga taxes. So, now let's proceed to number 4, which is the harbor regulations related to customs. So, letter A, the vessel entering port. So, first, all vessels entering any port of entry or coastwise in the Philippines shall show their colors and the signal their official numbers or letters, and such signal shall be kept flying till the vessel is boarded by the proper officials. All vessels within 2 miles before arriving at designated quarantine anchorage shall display their aforementioned signals. So when mail is to be discharged, the vessel shall inform the port authorities by the prescribed signal at the earliest opportunity. Letter B, flag signals or calls. First is at the Philippine ports of entry signals will be responded to and from the customs house or pilot signal tower. 2, the following signals or calls shall be used in all Philippine ports of entry. So A, customs international code flags is E and C. At night, 3 or 4 short blasts of whistle and waving of light. B is the quarantine international code flag Q at the 4. C is the pilot international code flag G or P T at night. So number 1, the pyrotechnic light, commonly known as blue light, every 15 minutes. Number 2, a bright white light, flashed or shown at short, frequent intervals, just above the hull or for about a minute at a time. Or number 3, the international code signal PT by flashing light. So letter D, explosives or inflammables, international code flag B at the 4. E is the medical assistance, international code flag or customs call. F is the contagious or infectious disease, international code flags EZQ. G is death, customs and quarantine calls or international code flags E and L. H is distress by day, international code flags NC, or gun or other explosive signals fired at intervals of about a minute, or the distress signal by consisting of a square flag having either above or below it a ball or anything resembling a ball at night. So number 1, a gun or other explosive signal fired at intervals or about a minute. 2. Flames on the vessels, or as from a burning tar, a barrel, or oil barrel, or etc. Or 3. Rockets or shells, throwing stars at any color or descriptions, fired one at a time at short intervals. So, I, the male, International Code Flag Y. J, waterboat, International Code Flag R, CQ, or FU. K is the PDS, or Customs Call. Harbor Master, International Code Flags GYT. Maneuvering, International Code Flag D at night. So, those are the flag signals or calls. C. Quarantine requirements. Deaths, illness, or accidents involving physical to any person on board a vessel in a harbor shall be at once reported to the Collector of Customs and the quarantine officer. D. Repair or dry docking of vessel. No repairs except minor ones shall be allowed on any vessel in a port without the permission of the Collector of Customs or the Deputy Collector for Operations, as well as its transfer to designated place of dry docking, and shall be subject to continuous underguarding until final clearance. So for dry docking, the following documents are required. A. Searching and inventory report. B. Approval from the Office of the Deputy Collector for Operations. C. Certification from contractor or scope of work and duration of repair. So, E. Sunken vessel. Whenever the navigation of any harbor or navigable river tributary thereto shall be obstructed by any sunken vessel, boat, watercraft, or other similar obstruction has existed for a period longer than 30 days, or whenever abandonment can be established in a less space of time. So, the sunken vessel, boat, watercraft, or other obstruction may be broken up, removed, sold, or otherwise disposed, or by the Collector of Customs in his discretion at the expenses of the owner. So F. Lighters, tugs, and other watercraft. So lighters shall not be tied nor removed from alongside a vessel without the permission of the customs inspector on board such vessel. So J. Police authority performed by customs officers. So first, customs officers have the power to arrest within harbor limits person violating the customs, immigration, and navigation laws and regulations and persons committing crimes or breaches of the peace. Such arrest shall be reported without delay to the superior officer. Any person who assaults, resists, opposes, or interferes in any manner with a customs officer in the discharge of his duty shall be liable and subject to the penalties prescribed by law. So, H. Rat Guard. So, when any vessel, either of foreign or Philippine registry, it is at any dock, pier, wharf, quay, or bulkhead, such vessels shall take proper precautions to prevent the passage of rodents to or from that vessel. The vessel shall be fended off from the pier, wharf, quay, bulkhead, or dock, not less than 6 feet, and acceptable rat guards, as prescribed, shall be fixed on all connecting lines, and in addition, all cargo nets, chutes, and similar devices extending between the vessel and the shore structure shall be removed at night unless in actual use, as shall all gangways and ladders, unless guarded or properly lighted. So, number 2, the master of any vessel of a foreign industry of the Philippine industry engaged in foreign trade, whether lying alongside a pier, dock, quay, wharf, or bulkhead, or in the stream, shall have suitable rat guards placed on all lines between idle lighters or small boats or other carriers and other vessel, which must be fastened to the guard, will remain at right angles and tied on the line. So no cargo shall be discharged from or received on board a vessel lying alongside a pier, wharf, quay, dock, or bulkhead, or in the stream before suitable rat guards have been placed on all the lines loading from the carriers to the vessel and from the vessel to the pier, wharf, quay, dock, or bulkhead, except in the case of coastwise vessel handling coastwise cargo to or from barges, lighters, or other carriers, from barges, lighters, or other carriers when the rat safeguard requirement on the lines between vessel and carrier may be dispensed with. So, other special anchorages. Likewise, all other boats and watercrafts are prohibited to anchor or to linger around any vessel, whether moored at a pier or anchored in the harbor at a distance of less than 50 meters from said vessels, unless especially authorized by the customs collector of customs. So J. Specific regulations. No empty lighters or carriers shall lie at night alongside a Philippine government pier or alongside a vessel moored thereto, nor shall empty lighters or carriers be attached to such pier or vessel by cables or ropes, or attached to loaded or partly loaded carriers which may be alongside or fastened to such pier or vessel. So empty lighters or carriers alongside or attached to such pier during daytime shall be removed therefrom before nightfall. So number 3, the provisions contained in paragraph 1 and 2 above hereof shall not apply to carriers partially laden with import or export cargo, or to the empty carriers which may have been prepared or which are preparing to receive cargo from a pier or a vessel when delivery from a pier or discharge of a vessel during nighttime has been authorized. So any vessel or other watercraft in the Philippine harbor shall, when a case of sickness occurs on board, immediately hoist the regulation quarantine flag, which is yellow, and keep the same flying until boarded and passed upon by an inspector of the quarantine bureau. The flag shall be sufficient size and so placed as plainly visible. So thank you all for listening. So that was all the coverage about the topic miscellaneous provisions and the harbor regulations related to customs. So I hope you learned today about the topic that in the CMO number 22 to 2010. Stay safe, everyone.